Hello everybody, welcome to day 4 of the ENFP Reboot. And I have to say, I am getting so much out of this already, and I hope you are too. Just today is one of those situations where I have an appointment I've got to go to, which is an hour away here in Valencia. And then I've got an ENFP Unleashed call later, and I found myself feeling a little stressed and falling into this old mentality that is not the best one, which is sort of the excuses or victim mindset, which is like, oh, there's not enough time, I have to get the video done. And I had to stop myself and say, Dan, you've got an hour before you have to leave your apartment. Pretty sure you can film a video in less than an hour. Take a damn shower, put some of that gunk in your hair, and turn on the camera. And here we are. And actually, the topic today is completely unrelated to any of that, but one that was inspired by a comment that I think is really worth thinking about. I don't have the comment right in front of me, but essentially on the video about bad habits, someone commented that they were questioning why they even need entertainment. You know, why they need to watch anything in their lives or do anything for entertainment. And it made me think about this change in mindset that I think happened, I might be getting some of the official terms right, but let's say during the boom of scientific rationalism. So once the scientific method was invented, which was a very positive thing, let's be clear, it led to this belief and way of thinking for some people that humans are like kind of robots. Like, what are the basic needs? What are the vitamins? What are the carbohydrates, protein, fat needs, etc.? Like a very rational approach to what we need to survive and, in theory, to thrive as human beings. And the thing is the science was really not caught up to actually the complexity of what it means to be a human. But science started replacing, old cultural wisdom, just common knowledge, these sorts of things where it's like, yeah, everyone knew broccoli and cauliflower was good for you before you did studies on it. And I've noticed this when traveling as well, is there'll be new superfood in the US. So like sauerkraut, kefir, these superfoods, sweet Canada. My brother will tell me, oh, kefir is $10 in Vancouver or $5 or whatever. Like, yeah, that's just what people drink in Serbia, in Spain, it's like $1 and it's been around a long time. Sauerkraut, it's just something the Germans have, right? And it's sort of this thing where maybe in 100 years, the science will know all the things that make us healthy and work really well. But there's this in the middle time where it's like, oh, that hasn't been proven. Now, I have a friend like this. He's an ENTJ. And if something hasn't been proven by double-blind placebo studies, then it's not real. It's like, huh. So that's not really how the world works. So saunas are an example. I have a sauna in my apartment in Prague. I love the sauna. The way it makes me feel is great, but also I'm very convinced on the health benefits in terms of short term. When I start to feel sick and I start to sauna, it tends to evaporate whatever it is that's going there. And it actually does that by basically mimicking a fever in your body, which makes it very hard for viruses to survive. And there is some reasoning behind it. But it's like, I know he's anti-sauna. He's like, there's no benefits to it. There's not been double-blind placebo studies. Question is, who's going to pay for those double-blind placebo studies? Because the countries that love sauna don't need convincing. No one needs to go to Finland and prove to them that it's good to sauna. They're on board. And the countries that don't, sauna is not a drug that can be patented by a company. So who's going to spend $1 million or more to do a double-blind placebo study on the long-term health effects of a sauna? Probably no one, because there's no money to be made from it. Like, one sauna company could do that, but they'd be spending millions of dollars on research, and all the other sauna companies would still get to sell. So, is my point that we should only go to witch doctors and use healing crystals? No, that is not my point at all. My point is that we are actually very complex organisms, and this also is on the psychological approach. So, why do we need entertainment? Why do we need love? Why do we need passion? Why do we need human connection? We need all these things. We are a very complex organism. And what's actually funny about this is there have been times when I've been trying to, earlier in my life when I didn't fully understand this and I was trying to work really hard on something, and I'd be trying to have less and less social contact. And if you know anything about ADHD and ENFPs as well, is having minimal social contact is the number one way to not focus, to get distracted, and to not give your brain what it needs. In fact, social interactions, positive, high-quality social interactions, are essentially a treatment for ADHD. They're one way that you can reduce the symptoms. So a lot of these things that if you look at more traditional cultures are valued, where people spend lots of time having dinners with family and friends, going out for walks, even the diets, whatever. We're not really focused on the diet in this video. There's a reason that entertainment has been part of human society since basically the beginning, since we've existed. We need novelty, we need challenge, we need play, we need to be entertained, we need social contact. And one of the things, I was doing this meetup in the Netherlands last month, and an ENFP messaged me and said, I don't think I can come. I'm behind on this work I've been trying to finish since January. Keep in mind, this was in March. So I'm behind on this work, so I'm not going to make it. I'm trying to get caught up on this. And I said to her, I'm like, I have a feeling if you're still behind on work you're doing from January and your solution is to isolate yourself, like in the evening, not go out and not connect with like-minded people or people who perhaps could have some advice on why you are so behind, that staying at home is not going to be your solution. Like, this is not going to solve things. And it's like trying to solve your beer belly by drinking more beer. And like, I'm going to power through it. If I drink enough beer, then finally the belly will go away. Like, that's not how it works. Because, and I've lived this pattern, and that's why I was fine being so frank with her and discussing it now, is we need to be in a good state to be very productive. And falling into this habit of like isolating ourselves so that we can get more done does not work. We need the social interaction. We need the positive feelings, the conversation, etc., to be at our best, to actually be able to deliver whatever it is we need to do. And so the point of the video today is just that, to give yourself permission to meet all your different needs. And to some extent, I'm speaking about the human needs, so I'll link to a longer video I have on that, quite a longer video on that actually, exploring the human needs. And if you haven't watched that video, I really recommend it. It's a great way to think about meeting your needs and habits and changing up your life and that as well. The concept in that has been really helpful for me. But also, like, your needs in general. There's not anything wrong with you if you say, hey, I'm much happier when it's sunny outside, or I need to have sex sometimes to function, or I need to exercise, which is also the sex. So, that could be a way to save some time. I need time with my friends to be happy. Like, we're not meant to be robots who just perform tasks all day. We are complex social beings. And in fact, like, humans are highly social creatures. And the fact that we don't function well when we're more isolated is not a defect. That's how we are. That's just how we're meant to be. It's a defect of perhaps the life or society that you are isolated or not having all that contact or whatever else. So things like wanting entertainment, wanting novelty, wanting to connect with people, all these things, accept that. And perhaps even look at ways to add more of that to your life. So think back to the times when you've been perhaps most productive, most focused. And I should say that's not the goal for life either. You might hear me talk that way, and I will admit that often is how I evaluate my days. As I say, was I productive? Did I get these done? And I have to remind myself, like, I'm not an 18th or 19th century factory worker. Like, productivity is not the purpose of life. But I think for a lot of us, we do struggle being productive and being focused and getting the things done we want to get done. And we're pretty good at the other stuff. And so for whatever reason, that leads us to evaluate our days and our time based on how productive we are rather than other ways we could be evaluating that, right? We could evaluate it based on how happy we were, or how many people we made happy that day, or how many cool stories we heard, or any number of things. So that is it for today's. What I'd love to hear from you in the comments is, are there certain things that at some point you've told yourself you don't need to do, or maybe you've just neglected? So maybe it's having a dinner with friends, maybe it's going for a walk in nature, whatever it is, that at some point when you were trying to be focused and work hard, or you got really busy, you neglected that, and you found it really hurt your, just hurt your life. It was a negative thing. Or on the other hand, if you're aware, like, what are the things you need to do every day or every week to be at your best? I would love to hear your list in the comments so that you can inspire others. We can maybe borrow from each other or learn from each other and all that. I look forward to reading those and seeing you tomorrow for the next video in the ENFP Reboot.